Now, he proved through all his observations, multiple observations, that these are common, and that we have to take seriously the idea that the redshift is not a cosmological expansion of the universe whatsoever. It is caused by some other physics, and this other physics is being gradually revealed by people working on other theories of gravity and other theories of the ether. There is no... So if the universe is not basically expanding the way modern fictional cosmology says it is, going back to Hubble, who himself did not necessarily believe the expansion of the universe, all he said was, for the so-called Hubble expansion, he said, yes, there is a correlation between redshift and brightness.
See, I have a hard time believing that a tiny little pin prick of a explosion created the kinds of mass that we have right now.
Yeah, well, it is conceptually very difficult for the average person to assimilate that, and in truth, the average person has more sense than the physicists who believe it. There was a cover of Discover magazine some time ago that we made fun of in our recent issue, which shows the size of the universe at 10 to the minus 34 seconds, and it's about 2 centimeters in diameter. Now listen, since there's no such thing as space-time, which is this combined entity that came out of special relativity, there can be no such thing as a warped space-time that gives you black holes or gives you a singularity such as Stephen Hawking talks about or others in cosmology talk about. This has gotten into complete megalomania and insanity. But let me tell you, the joke, the cosmic joke of all time is on late 20th century and early 21st century modern physics, because history will record that they went off on a tangent with relativity and special and general, and they completely fooled themselves, while at the very same time making fun of such things that were giving them a hint as to the alternate physics, namely low-energy nuclear reactions, ether energy, what Reich came up with. These people ought to go back to Science 101. Science 101 is this: experiment always overrules theory.
That's true.
If you see an experiment, Feynman said it, and he was, a participant, unfortunately, in another episode that was negative, and we can talk about that, the PAP engine. But if one single experiment conflicts with the theoretical prediction of a theory, that theory has a flaw.
All right, stay with us, Eugene. We're going to come right back. I want to talk with you about that pop engine, and also, lastly, that third category called environmental energy. Briefly tell us what that is. And then, of course, phone calls right here on Coast to Coast AM. I'll be right back. Eugene Mallove, my guest. I'm George Norton. Of course, this is Coast to Coast AM. Eugene, before we go to the calls and later this hour, I want you to kind of relay the incredible story of Joseph Pop and his engine. But very briefly, environmental energy, what is that?
Well, there's something called the second law of thermodynamics, which says that you cannot extract from a uniform temperature reservoir energy. You know that air molecules are zipping by and there's plenty of energy in the air. But the second law of thermodynamics says if you have this uniform temperature and you don't have a lower temperature to exhaust the lower energy of a heat engine, you can't run a heat engine in a room that is just one temperature. All right? And so that prevents us from using just the ordinary energy within air, let's say, or water, or anything. Now, the second law of thermodynamics is thought of as an inviolable barrier to using environmental energy. Nikola Tesla thought otherwise, and in 1900 he wrote an essay, and we republished it and commented on it, where he said, he thought he could do it, and many people since then have thought they could do it and failed. Interestingly, there have become large conferences in mainstream physics, no less. There was one in La Jolla in 2002, summer, on loopholes in the second law. And it turns out that there are many loopholes in that law, not the least of which, of course, comes from ether energy, which is a gross violation of the second law. But let's say you don't even believe in an ether. All you believe in is that air molecules and vibrating and moving can have their energy extracted and make work by some means that has not been thought of before. And the answer, it seems to be that there are many such ways of approaching it, and I do believe that within the next 5 years or so, something like that, for this form of environmental energy, one or more devices based on this principle of taking environmental heat and turning it directly into work, a complete gross violation of the so-called second law of thermodynamics, will be done.
Now, are these three categories an evolutionary stage, or can we just go to the best one and try to work on that?
Well, I think all three should be pursued.
Okay.
That's what we're doing. We certainly cover in Infinite Energy magazine, we cover all three.
And I guess any one of them would be better than what we have right now.
Oh, of course. It would be free energy. In all cases, it would be free energy. I will draw an analogy for your listeners with a computer revolution, a personal computer revolution. At one time, certainly when I was doing my doctoral work at Harvard, we had to pay for the amount of CPU minutes or hours logged in processing Fortran programs. Well, you give them the card deck, and of course the mainframe computer would click away, and a certain amount of CPU time would click away, and you'd pay for it. Your research budget would pay for it. Now we have things sitting on our desks that are constantly computing, even with a screensaver, say, or some other problem or database or any other kind of computer operation, and you're not paying for the CPU minutes that your Pentium or your PowerBook PC is on. You are paying for the electricity, but the paradigm of infinite computation in which you do not pay for computer minutes is there. The same thing's going to happen with energy. That's the ultimate paradigm shift, that there will be no continuing charge for energy. You will ultimately pay, of course, for the device.
Right.
You know, for the unit that you put in your house, whether it's with low energy nuclear reactions, ether energy, environmental energy, whatever it is, or the new solar energy, as we would say, caused by the ether. Okay?
But you never have to worry about going and not having your energy available.
Right. It will be infinite energy, literally, which is why our magazine is appropriately titled. The establishment mocks that title, Infinite Energy, but that's what energy is. It's infinite, and it should be free, and it is free. Life is free in some sense. Life takes from the environment things that it needs, air and water, and it turns out ether energy as well, and that's how life exists and how life started, okay? Life will eventually return to a system of governance on this planet and elsewhere in the universe that does not depend on constant paying some authority for energy. That era will come. It can't come soon enough, needless to say. And obviously, your listeners have great imaginations. It doesn't take a genius to realize that the world will be turned completely upside down when this era arrives. I do not believe it is the evil oil companies holding this back. That is not, in my opinion, what is happening. What is absolutely happening, though, is academic stupidity, the academic government complex that started the mythology that only one theory can be correct, quantum mechanics is the only thing that can be correct, relativity is the only thing that can be correct, and just as the MIT professor, may he not rest in peace, Hermann Feshbach, who said, I have 50 years of experience in nuclear physics and I know what's possible and what's impossible. That is the standard stance that is in the way of progress. And it prevents, for example, venture capitalists from looking objectively at experiments. They just go to someone else after you tell them, okay, low-energy nuclear reactions is correct. They go to their favorite physicist, and the favorite physicist says, oh, I know this is impossible. And, of course, since he has PhDs and is with MIT or Caltech or some other place, he's believed, and the outsiders are not believed. That's the essence of it, and that's why, my good friends, we need, for New Energy Foundation and for many other people, we need the research funds. That's the choke point.